What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here, and welcome to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet discussion video. Today we are talking about every single Pokemon or notable Pokemon that got buffs in the game. These Pokemon got better, and a lot better at that. So let's go ahead and talk about them. Now, we are not going to be spoiling anything as it relates to new Pokemon. These are all going to be Pokemon that have previously been available in past games with moves that some might be new moves, but they're not anything crazy notable. There's some that are kind of, well, they're fine. They're not anything crazy broken. Some new abilities, however, as well, but no new Pokemon. But this will be including Pokemon from Pokemon Legends Arceus. So if you guys are excited for the video, make sure you leave a like on the video because we're aiming for 50 likes on the content. Subscribe to the channel because we're going for 2,000 by the end of the year. We're getting close to 1,750 right now. Hopefully we can get to 2K by then. Also, guys, be sure to comment which Pokemon you wish got access to stat buffs, or you wish got access to some of these buffs, and which Pokemon you think got the best buffs available in this thing. Or as well, let me know which Pokemon that got a buff that I did not mention. Let me see that down below too. But let's go ahead and jump into it. Starting off, we're gonna be talking about the Pokemon that should be the thumbnail for this video, Hisuian Samurott. This Pokemon no longer has access to Shell Armor as an ability. No. It now has access to an ability called Sharpness. This ability basically boosts the attack moves, the power of slashing, cutting moves. Moves like Psycho Cut, Night Slash, Razor Claw, something like that are all getting boosts, which is amazing. It also now gets access to Sucker Punch, which is beyond great. Having Sucker Punch for this Pokemon that has a really average speed stat at base 85 is a big deal. It also gets Stab Knockoff. And in case you didn't know, Knockoff was kind of reduced in terms of usability in this game now because so few Pokemon get access to it. That's a really big deal for a Pokemon like Samurott Hisuian form to get access to Knockoff, Stab Knockoff, and Stab Sucker Punch. Next up is going to be a new Pokemon as well from Pokemon Legends Arceus, Sneasler. This Pokemon, Poison Fighting, 120 speed, 130 attack, great typing to break through a lot of its checks. Really good here. The main answers to this are going to be like ground types, like Landorus, I guess, like Runerigus, for example. But Pokemon, and I guess Pokemon like Toxapex too, but Toxapex is not even a good counter. The reason why is because that Pokemon, this Pokemon here, gets access to Swords Dance and Taunt, as well as these moves over here. Now, what this Pokemon can do, yes, Toxapex can come in. However, if you taunt the Toxapex, it can't recover up. You can Swords Dance all over it, and you don't have to worry about Scald. Do not worry about Scald. It is no longer in the game. It's not there anymore. So you can just freely click these moves. Getting Fake Out for doubles is huge. Getting U-Turn for singles or Draft League is huge. And having Unburden now as an ability. We're unclear for sure if it's an ability increase or a change to Poison Touch. We believe it's going to be an addition to Pressure as its like main abilities, and then Poison Touch will still be the hidden ability. But Unburden is really big. Great to have access to because it's just good to have an extra set that you could possibly run with this Pokemon here. Next is going to be Dreadnought. Dreadnought gets access to Shell Smash. Shell Smash is great, obviously, but this Pokemon is basically Barbaracle, so why would I mention it? Well, it's better Barbaracle because Barbaracle speed is 68. This is 74, so it can outspeed more Pokemon while it's at +2 than Barbaracle can. On top of that, its attack stat is 10 points higher at 115 instead of 105. Really important there. As well as it also gets a boost from moves like Strong Jaw, which is great, or it can be running Shell Armor, which will protect from getting critical hits. Obviously, its moves aren't always the best for its ability, but it does get moved like Jaw Lock, which can be really good in certain situations, especially if you're able to Jaw Lock, lock something in, and then click Shell Smash. Really advantageous for you to be able to get to +2, +4, +6, even depending on the situation. You can definitely do that with Pokemon like Dreadnought, and it still maintains the fact that it can go into Swift Swim, which is really good. Next up is going to be Hisuian Decidueye, which I forgot to mention also gets access to Defog and a new move called Trail Blaze. Now, this Pokemon here, the main reason why it's on this list is because it now gets access to Scrappy. No more long reach like regular Decidueye. It gets Scrappy now, which is huge. The reason why Scrappy is so big of a deal is because it now is immune to Intimidate. Massive. It also can hit Ghost type, so it's a 2-factor ability here, which is a really important thing for a Pokemon that's a fighting type, especially on its stab fighting moves that would be normally immune to Ghost type attacks. Close Combat. Really solid move, of course. Super spammable, really good offensively, can do a lot of good things. Defog for support is amazing access. Just having access to Defog on more Pokemon is a good thing because you can just slap it on as a worst case scenario. It also, this Pokemon has what? 60 base speed? Trailblaze, brand new move. 50 base power, grass move, so it's stab. And it boosts your speed by 1 stage. It is grass type flame charge. That's huge. That's so big to have access to on slow Pokemon, slow grass types, slow physical grass types like Hisuian Decidueye. I love this boost. Next up is going to be Hisuian Arcanine. with Rock Head over Justified and Stab Head Smash that you're not taking recoil from anymore. That is amazing. It's got great stats all around. Its typing is a little meh. You're 4 times weak to water, 4 times weak to ground, but Head Smash on potential Scarf, Arcanine, Hisuian Arcanine that you're not taking any chip from is amazing. An amazing boost for this Pokemon. One of the biggest advantages we've seen so far in Pokemon that was going to be seen pretty much as like not a great competitive Pokemon, like definitely below average one. But I think Head Smash really adds a lot of value to taking this Pokemon at any point in time, whether you're playing in singles, doubles, or even in Draft League. Next up is going to be arguably one of the best Pokemon in doubles to get a boost, a buff. That's going to be Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl gets access to Parting Shot, Prankster, Parting Shot. It's got Dark and Fairy, one of the best typings out there, having great immunities, having great stat distribution, but now having access to Parting Shot and Momentum as well is insane. It still has all the good stuff it had before. Light Screen, Reflect, Taunt, Thunder Wave, Sucker Punch, all great. Spirit Break, but sadly doesn't get Knockoff. And I'm hoping that Knockoff will be added more often when we get like move tutors. We're gonna see. But Grimmsnarl is absolutely insane. Great Pokemon. Getting access to Parting Shot is such a huge buff for this thing. Moving on now, we have a second page here. We're gonna be talking about another 6, which are gonna start with the Gastrodon. Now, this Pokemon here, we have been talking about water and ground types forever. Which is the best? Is it Swampert? Is it Seismitoad? Quagsire? Probably not. Gastrodon? Probably not. Whiscash? Definitely not. But Gastrodon has a really strong argument to being number 1 now. Not only does it get Storm Drain, for doubles, that's great because it now draws in the water type attacks. It also boosts its special attack by 1 stage. It gets Spikes. It also gets Stealth Rocks. Oh, and it still gets access to Recover, even though Recover's PP has been nerfed to 5 plus 3 PP ups. It's going to be 8. This is really, really, really good. Its stats are awesome. It can be physically defensive, special defensive, doesn't matter. It can do so many good things. Spikes, Rocks, enormous for this Pokemon. One of the biggest advantages that Swampert and Seismitoad had over a Pokemon like Gastrodon and Quagsire was they got hazards. While Gastrodon and Quagsire got reliable recovery, those two got access to that. Now that doesn't matter. Swampert gets Rocks, so does Gastrodon and Quagsire. Seismitoad gets Water Absorb, a water immunity. So does Gastrodon and Quagsire. They also get Rocks and Swell, and it gets Spikes on top of that, which is in some situations better than Rocks. Really good. Quagsire, I mentioned it. It gets Rocks, also gets Spikes. Oh, and it gets Toxic Spikes as well. T-Spikes on Quagsire is so big because this Pokemon lost Scald. Gastrodon lost Scald. Everything not named Volcanion lost Scald. Such a big deal here. But I do believe that Quagsire is going to be even better than Gastrodon because it has Water Absorb and it still has access to Unaware. Unaware Quagsire can check a lot of different things and it still does that really, really effectively. And now it just gets 3 new toys to play with: Spikes, Stealth Rock, Toxic. The loss of Recover hurts. The nerf to Recover hurts, but it's still really strong. Next up is Breloom. Breloom, Technician, still there, but now it gets Gunk Shot and Close Combat. Still gets Spore, really solid here. Obviously, not as big of a deal as some of the other things, but Gunk Shot really good for Fairy types and Grass types that are going to be coming in on your Fighting type attacks or your Spores, and you can Gunk Shot them and get amazing damage off. And Close Combat is just more damage than something like Mach Punch is, even though it's not priority. It's still a big deal, even though it's not Technician boosted. Next up is going to be a new Pokemon we're talking about, Kleavor. Kleavor is a Pokemon that is an evolution of Scyther, and this Pokemon gets Sharpness as well. I mentioned for Hisuian Samurott, this Pokemon also gets it. I believe it's going to be a 1.3 times boost, so like a Life Orb boost, which makes a lot of sense and kind of works well with other abilities that are kind of similar to that. But 1.3 times boost is really good on moves like Night Slash and Cycle Cut. And its signature move, Stone Axe. I have it in the nickname slot here because it's not available in game, but Stone Axe right now is a slicing move. That's going to be a slicing move for sure. It's axes, for crying out, it has to be. But what it does really well, first of all, it's a physical rock move. Even better than that, it sets up Stealth Rocks. What? This Pokemon gets Stealth Rocks in a really weird back alley way that does damage? That's crazy. That's insane. It gets Close Combat now as well, just like the entire Scyther and Scissorline do. But on this Pokemon here with its insane attack stat, that is not 135 anymore. I put a 5 over here because it actually lost 5 in its attack stat. It's now 130, but it gained 5 in its attack stat, in its speed stat rather. So that's really good. The boost in speed is obviously amazing, but the drop in attack sucks. I think it's still better that I got the boost in speed though than the drop in the attack for sure. And Sharpness is replacing Steadfast, by the way. Steadfast is now gone. It's going to be Sharpness with Swarm and Sheer Force. So depending on your set you're running, Sheer Force, Sharpness, whichever one you want really. That's the main thing. Next up is going to be Gallade, which also got Sharpness now instead of Justified, I believe it is. No more Justified. Here is Sharpness. Sharpness Really good, because it gives you the protection or the power on moves like Leaf Blade, Psycho Cut, something like that. But you also get Sacred Sword, so you get the boost on that too, which is a new move that it gets. And you also get Agility. Now, on regular Gallade, sure, fine, whatever. Let's just go to Gallade Mega and take a look at what this thing's speed stat is. This thing has 110 speed, Agility, getting the speed boost, with 165 attack in National Dex formats, when Megas are allowed, with Agility. That's going to be crazy. That's going to be absolutely insane. What an amazing, amazing boost to this Pokemon. Next up, we're going to talk about Ursaluna. This thing is great. It's fat as hell. It does a lot of damage really quickly with 140 in its attack stat, with 130 HP, and its great defenses, and its awesome defensive typing with 2 immunities to Electric and Ghost. That's great. But now it gets access to Guts, which it did before, yeah. But now it has Drain Punch and Close Combat, and it has setup in Belly Drum, in Swords Dance, and in Bulk Up as well. This Pokemon's not dying, and it's going to break every single team it's on. Beware of Trick Room. Trick Room with Ursaluna is going to be absolutely insane if it's carrying a Flame Orb or something. Crazy. Really looking forward to it. Next up, we're going to look at number 3, which is going to be the Spikes and Will-O-Wisp on Groudon. I have Primal Groudon pulled up here because Primal Groudon really appreciates the Will-O-Wisp a lot more than regular Groudon does in National Dex formats because of the way that it plays and the fact that it has such a good typing to resist the special attacks. Now having Will-O-Wisp to nerf the physical attacks, really big advantage. Spikes, solid. Mostly gonna be running Rocks, I find though, in a format like Ubers, because you have access to other Spikers. But having Spikes as well, really good to allow you to do multiple different things, which is awesome. Next up is MattOshea, another Pokemon with Fighting and Psychic. This time it gets Close Combat, which is the first time it gets that. But it also gets access to Trailblaze too. Trailblaze, I mentioned it before. Did I mention it before? I forget. I definitely did. Mentioned it before. 50 base power, Grass move to break through the Quagsires and the Gastrodons. But it boosts your speed as well. So going from 80 base speed to higher than that, to 100 base speed into Mega Form to higher than that. Huge advantage. Really big growth here for the MattOshea. Next up, Spectre gets a massive buff with Draining Kiss now. This Pokemon can touch Dark types that's not going to be running like Hyper Beam. That's amazing. And you get recovery back from it too. You can also Nasty Plot up. That's great. Such an amazing buff for Spectre. It's absolutely terrifying now though. With the special Moxie, the speed that it has, the special attack it has, Draining Kiss, Nasty Plot, Hex with Will-O-Wisp. Psychic now as well. Hit those what they call those fighting types. Really, really good. Huge boost for the Spectre. Next up, we're going to talk about a Pokemon that is new to Pokemon Legends Arceus, Enamorus. This thing is a contrary Pokemon. Yeah, so you know crazy things are going to happen. But before it didn't have access to Superpower, it does now. Superpower on Enamorus is amazing. This thing has 115 attack, I believe it is. Yeah, 115 attack with 70 defense. Now give it boosts to attack. Oh, and what resists its stab options? Steel resists Fairy. It also resists Flying, and now you have Superpower against that thing. This thing is going to be really, really strong, and definitely a physical Enamorus is now arguably better than a special Enamorus. Amazing buff for this Pokemon here with great, great typing. Next up is going to be the Crocodile, which did lose Knockoff. Yeah, it lost Knockoff. That hurts a lot. But it gained Gunk Shot. Getting Gunk Shot is really nice to hit something like an Enamorus, for example. With the Gunk Shot, it's going to do 120 base power plus super effective. It is what, 240? That's big damage against a Pokemon like that would normally be resisting its stab options. Huge, huge advantage for Gunk Shot, but big time loss for Knockoff. Next up, this is a weird one. We're looking at Abomasnow. Abomasnow gets access to Snow Warning. Snow Warning brings on Hail. Or does it? Snow Warning now brings on the Snowstorm, which is like Hail, but it's not. It gives the same properties of it, where you boost the Slush Rush and the Ice Bodies and whatnot, but it doesn't do Chip anymore. Hail Chip does not exist, but the advantage that it gets, it boosts the defense of Pokemon that are Ice types while in the Snowstorm. So Pokemon like Abomasnow now have boosted defense, just like Cheetar has boosted special defense in Sand. That's the same thing now, but defense instead of special defense. Big time advantage, and the reason why I have Abomasnow here instead of like Alolan Ninetales or Vanillux is because this is the only Pokemon that natively gets access to Snow Warning in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet as of right now. Big deal here. Next up is going to be, well, a Pokemon with a new move. What if I told you that Slowking lost the ability to click Teleport? That's a big deal, right? What if I told you it lost the ability to recover up with Slack Off more than 8 times? It's a big deal. But what if I told you it gained a new momentum move in a Chilly Reception with the stupidest, most ridiculous player text I've ever seen? The description for this move is the Pokemon tells a bad joke and switches out to a party Pokemon. It is Baton Pass because they tell a bad joke. That it's a Pokemon. It can't. Okay. Anyways, this is huge because not only does it give you momentum moves, that's not going to be a minus priority, so worse than Teleport, but it's better than Teleport because it sets up the Snowstorm. Doing this is basically clicking Hail. That's crazy because there's a lot of Pokemon in this generation that get Slush Rush. And Slush Rush on some of these Pokemon. Oh my god. There's one Pokemon I'm thinking of. If you know, you know. I'm not going to mention it because it's a spoiler, because it's a new Pokemon. The ability it has is Slush Rush. If this Pokemon, compare with that Pokemon, and Slush Rush works the way we expect it to, that thing's going to be absolutely insane. Crazy. Next up, though, is going to be the Galar Slowking, which also gets Chilly Reception as well. So again, the swap out the Baton Pass with the Hail setup, or the Snowstorm setup, is really advantageous. Plus, it gets Toxic nowadays. Really good. And it also gets access to Toxic Spikes, which is even better, I think, for Galar Slowking, because it was one of the few poison types that didn't get Toxic Spikes. And honestly, I think the only move that Galar Slowking is missing right now is Dragon Tail. If this thing could get Dragon Tail, that would be absolutely amazing. I wish it did. Moving on, though, is going to be Gengar. This Pokemon gets access to Toxic Spikes. Not that big of a deal for regular Gengar, but for Mega Gengar in Natdex leagues, it plays more of a supportive role, getting like cheeky KOs on things with access to Shadow Tag. But T-Spikes, really big deal for that thing because it forces things out when it can, or tries to force things out, and then you can go for a T-Spike to be able to force your opponent into a really tough position. I like the ability to add T-Spikes to Gengar's movesets for sure. Next up, Urshifu gets Swords Dance. Not just Urshifu Single Strike, but Rapid Strike as well. Both get Swords Dance. Huge boost. Imagine taking a +2 Wicked Blow that crits, a +2 Surging Strike that crits. That's tough. Oh, you thought Toxic Spikes was going to wall Urshifu's Rapid Strike now? Well, no, I believe it gets Taunt. And it doesn't get Scald anymore, so it can't Scald Burn me. What's the best it can do? Poison me with Gunk Shot? I mean, I can always run Sub, be defensive enough, Swords Dance, and then just click Surging Strikes a ton of times and break through everything. That is an amazing set and a huge buff to Urshifu, Rapid Strike, and Single Strike. Thrud also gets Swords Dance. That's a new move it has. It also gets access to Jungle Healing and Synthesis still, which are big deals because it's two moves that can boost your HP stat. While Jungle Healing is only healing you back by a quarter, it gets rid of like Burn or Poison or whatever. Synthesis now has the same PP as all the other moves. They both have 8. All the Recovers, Slack Offs, Roosts all have 8 PP now, just like Synthesis. And while its ability still sucks, having Swords Dance is a big deal because its attack stat at 120 is crazy. Its speed stat at 105 is really good. Having access to now Swords Dance boosted attacks is just a really big buff for this Pokemon here. I just wish its ability was definitely better than Leaf Guard. It is what it is though. Next up is going to be the Scizor. This Pokemon here gets access to Close Combat now. It lost Roost. This thing lost Roost. That's such a big deal. It's such a big blow to this Pokemon, but I think the advantages for it they're not bad at all. Close Combat's a big deal because you don't have to rely on Superpower now or Brick Break or whatever. You're losing your defense, but Scizor's more of an offensive Pokemon now without the addition of Roost. But it gets access to 2 new moves. Trailblaze rather, which I mentioned before. Grass type, 50 base power, boosted by Technician. Technician boost is big, and it boosts your speed stat. Really good here. But you also get Pounce, which is another new move. Kind of like Lunge in a way. Except Lunge, while it lowers your opponent's attack stat, I believe it is, Pounce lowers your opponent's speed stat. It's a bug type, 50 base power, Technician boosted, and it lowers their speed stat. Really big deal here in certain spots. Depending on what you need to do, Trailblaze or Pounce could be better, but both are boosted by Technician. And if you don't need Pounce, you want to run Bug Bite, you still can. You get the 90 base power attack because of 60 base power for Bug Bite plus half of that damage added on, so 90 base power is still really good here. Next up, our last set of 6 Pokemon is going to be starting off with Garchomp, which gets Spikes and Liquidation. It still gets Stealth Rocks. It still gets access to Rocks, which is great. I love that. The issue with it is, now you can be running both, or whichever one is better in the matchup. And you can still run Rocky Helmet and Rough Skin, which is crazy. So you're gonna be doing a lot of chip with Garchomp, and it still gets all the benefits. The one thing I think that really hurts from it, I think it lost Scale Shot, which is really bad because Scale Shot was a move tutor move and not a level up move. And that's a big deal because losing Scale Shot means you can't boost your speed anymore, and that really hurts. But hey, Garchomp is still very good and now has an even better role as a more defensive, bulky Pokemon with an amazing typing and a great ability in Rough Skin. Next up is going to be Basculegion. This thing no longer gets access to Rattle. It gets Swift Swim now. That's a big deal because this Pokemon has 78 base speed, which can be boosted now in the rain. There's a trade-off though. It means you can't run a better ability in Adaptability. That hurts because you have great typing in Water and Ghost, but you're going to be hitting really hard. Swift Swim attacks in the rain is going to be doing more damage. Like water attacks in the rain are doing more damage than water attacks that are adaptability boosted, and you have Swift Swim 4 too. So it's really a trade-off, whichever one you want. I think the change is notable enough to make it into the video, but it's not as huge a deal as a lot of other Pokemon that we've seen. Next up is going to be Azelf, Uxie, and Mesprit, all getting a move called Mystical Power, which is, I believe, we don't for sure what the power is. I believe it's going to be 70 or 80 base power, but what it is a psychic type move that's special, and it boosts your special attack by 1 stage, which is great. Having a special attack boost for Pokemon like Azelf, which is 125 special attack already, and amazing coverage, huge deal. Same deal with Mesprit at 105, and same deal with Uxie, which I believe Uxie has 80 on its special attack, 75 on special attack. So it's still really good. All those are solid options overall. And having the boost in special attack is nice because you can kind of start steamrolling a bit, which is really good. Something that Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf didn't have the chance to do in other generations. Magearna's next. This thing gets spikes. Why? Why? Why did you have to give this thing hazards? It doesn't make sense. It already gets Volt Switch, Floor Cannon, Flash Cannon, amazing coverage options, Shift Gear. Why? Why give it spikes? But hey, they did. Spikes are gonna be really good on this thing. I think Magearna can do basically anything under the sun, even more so than Mew can, but spikes make it so much better nowadays than without spikes, that's for sure. Electros has made its return, and this Pokemon levitates, so still no weaknesses. Really good here, but it gets boosts in close combat and liquidation. Close combat is good because it means you don't have to rely on moves like Drain Punch for fighting a type attacks. And liquidation is good because you don't have to rely on Giga Drain to hit something like a ground type coming in on you. You can rely on your much higher attack stat, which is at 115. 10 points higher is nothing to laugh at. And liquidation has a chance to lower defense. So 2 liquidations, depending on the speed of your opposing ground type rather, is a big deal and can actually get the KO, the 2 KO that you really want to. Really big deal here. I think that Electros has a big buff in this format here. And then finally, our final Pokemon is going to be Hisuian Lilligant with a move called Victory Dance. If you don't know what Victory Dance is as a move, this Pokemon now gets a move that gives you a +1 boost in attack, in defense, and in speed. It is Physical Quiver Dance. Huge deal here for this Pokemon. Boosting its attack, defense, and speed are amazing because it's already got amazing attack and speed, or good attack and amazing speed, and it's got fine defense, below average defense, and below average stats everywhere else, but that move is amazing. And pair that with Hustle, another 1.5 times boost, a Choice Band at the cost of reduced accuracy. Such a big deal. Such an amazingly big deal. I think it's ice coverage now too, by the way, which is just another move, like I think it's like Spinning Axle or something like that, or spinning, or ice spinning, or whatever it's called. Something along those lines. Huge deal for this Pokemon. It's gonna be insanely powerful, and if you can get set up, it can just win a game outright if your opponent is not prepared, for sure. But guys, that is gonna be it. That is going to be the finale of the buffs for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And I'm hoping you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like on the video. We're aiming for 50 likes on the video, as well as subscribe to the channel. We're looking for 2,000 subscribers before the end of 2022. So guys, leave a like, subscribe, comment your thoughts on the video, as well as Pokemon that you wish got buffs, Pokemon you thought were going to get buffs that didn't, Pokemon that you don't know why they got buffs, and Pokemon that you thought got the best buffs. Let me know that down in the comments below, as well as just commenting to see if you enjoyed the video. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all that great stuff, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow.